and gentlemen, boys and girls, Buckeye fans of all ages, the Ohio podcast proudly brings to you the Buckeye Lounge. I'm your host, the Schrock Star Shaun Schrock. Of course, my co-host, the Wolverine Slayer herself, TG, and our special guest tonight, everybody, Buckeye Nation. Buckle up. We got Mekka Don in the house.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing amazing. Thanks for having me.
Hey, tonight, man, we wanted to get Mekka on here to talk about his brand new documentary that just came out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear all about it. Hit us with it, man.
Yeah, so, man, it was what a crazy season this was. And, I obviously had the anthem Buckle Up, which was the song that the team ran out to every game this season. And it was really special because before the season even started, I had a feeling that the song was kind of going to catch fire. And we got a video done by Ethan Miller over at Ohio State over in the summer before the season started. And the video was fire, and the song started really catching fire before the season started. And then again, even before the season started, we actually did a deal with Ohio State's Team Shop Legends for Buckle Up merchandise that was going to be sold online and sold in the stadium. So I could already start to sense the momentum of what it was going to be. And because I had already done the anthem in 2014, Juice. Yeah. And having that experience, I got with my team and I said, you know what, we should shoot a documentary on this season, because if this season goes the way I think it's going to go, which is the reason why I did the song this year, this could be a really special season. So we started, shooting and filming before the season even started. And we were able to shoot all the way through the season. So that was amazing. And we were able to capture all the special moments that happened with Buckle Up and, performing on Fox Big Noon Kickoff, and, how it kind of just turned into a PSA with sheriffs across the state of Ohio and all the different things that were, going along with it. And then, we lost to the team up north, and that was a setback, but, we knew we had life going into the playoffs. And so we kept the energy up, and lo and behold, we win the championship. And so that was just amazing because, we had all the footage from the season. We had different events, different, players that got involved. Lathan Ransom did an interview for the documentary. Denzel Burke is in the documentary. So we talked to them about, Buckle Up, of course, but also, how faith helped them through the season, what the locker room was like after the Michigan game. They talk about that in the documentary, how this team should be remembered. We have Curtis Grant in the documentary, who was the captain of the 2014 team, talking about Juice and DeVere Posey and, Shelly Meyer and Chris Carter. I mean, the Buckeye names that you want to see, they're all in this documentary. So we were able to do the documentary and really tell my story just of who I am and kind of how I got to where I am, and also the story of the season. So it's kind of two parallel stories running together at once. And it was just an amazing experience. So we put it out a couple weeks ago. It's already got almost 20,000 views, which is pretty good for a 48-minute documentary on YouTube. So pretty excited about it.
You sent it to me, man, and I watched it. It was awesome. This
is
crazy. You need to put out a song every year now, man, because 2014 you put one out, we win the Natty. Put one out this year, we win the Natty. Put one out every year now, man. Come on.
A lot of pressure, man. I don't want to let you guys down. So I don't know. I'm not saying I'm retired from Buckeye anthems, but it doesn't really get better than this, man. The one I waited probably 8, 9, 10 years to do a song. I have to be inspired really to do it. And some people ask me, well, why did you do it this year? People have been asking me, you can imagine, people have been asking me every year pretty much since we won. And but I looked at the season, and last year I looked at the kind of what was happening with the team. We had so many amazing guys come back, guys that could have gone early in the draft, come back to play. And then obviously we had Jeremiah Smith and coming in, and we had Caleb Downs and Quinn Shaun and a few other transfers coming in, and then the coaching staff. I was like, bro, this could be the year that we really do it. And then we also had the heartache, like I said, it was from losing to the team up north the last couple of years. And I just felt like it was going to be a season to do it. And that's why I said, buckle up, baby. We're coming. And so it was kind of a prediction, and it really worked out.
What is it like to know that forever, till the end of time, that your anthem is going to be tied to that team? That's the soundtrack to the season.
Right?
That's got to be such an awesome feel. You did it in 2014 with Juice. And now
Yeah,
with Buckle Up, you did it not once, but you did it twice, man. The soundtrack of the Buckeyes, man.
yeah. It
That's
Hmm.
feels so awesome, to be honest, and you know, it's just one of those things that it's like catching lightning in a bottle, you know. And you know, but it's also kind of just a testament to, you know, kind of staying faithful and staying true. I've been in music for a long time, and when you see the documentary, people will see stuff about me that they'll be shocked about. A lot of people just know me kind of just from the Buckeye situation, but I've done so much more than that nationally and internationally. And so to kind of just stay the course, and then be able to create this special moment with, first of all, a team that I grew up being a fan of. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and then, you know, being a former player and having that, but I was a walk on. I never had that type of experience, you know, as a player that I had even this season to really be cemented in kind of Buckeye history. So to, you know, think about it years later, decades later, to have this be the thing that makes me kind of cemented in Buckeye history is amazing. But the last part, which is really the best part, was that I was able to document the whole thing. So, you know, it's not like something that just happened that some people remember, some people won't. This is something that's been all the way documented and literally all the way into the documentary. So it's pretty eerie, but it's super exciting.
That's awesome. Um, as a matter of fact, Aaron actually wanted to ask you what made you become a Buckeye fan. Like, what age did you become a Buckeye fan, and what made you want to be make Buckeye music?
It's a good question. So my parents actually came here from Nigeria in the early 70s, and they both came to Columbus, Ohio on academic scholarship. And so that's how my family even got to Columbus and even got to Ohio State. So I'm the youngest of four kids. All of us went to Ohio State, at least, you know, at least for one degree. Some of us went to Ohio State. My brother and sister went to Ohio State undergrad and medical school. So, you know, growing up in my house, you know, we're Buckeyes. We're in Columbus, Ohio. We're 10 minutes from campus. Both my parents went there, and they both also worked at Ohio State for the majority of their careers. And then uncles, aunts, cousins. I mean, we are a true and true Buckeye family. So there wasn't really much of a choice. Not that I wanted one, but there wasn't really much of a choice. And then my siblings, you know, I'm a little bit younger than my siblings. So I think I was like 10, 11, 12 when they first got to Ohio State campus. So I used to get to go on campus with them. And I would run into, you know, Eddie George and Joe Montgomery and all these different type of guys. And so that really, Jimmy Jackson, you know, that type of thing. So I used to be able to see those guys. Terry Glenn was actually in one of my dad's classes. My dad was a professor at
That's
Ohio
cool.
State. I remember he gave us tickets one time to a game. So I was able to be around kind of Buckeye Nation early. What made me want to make music for Ohio State? It's interesting. I had never really set out to do it. You know, I was in New York doing my thing. I won an MTV award, best freshman. You know, I was on MTV, VH1. I had a deal with ESPN. I was doing a lot of songs for college football for ESPN, nothing Buckeye related. And what happened was President Gee, who was the president of Ohio State at the time, he heard about all this stuff and basically called me back to Ohio State and was like, look, you're a Buckeye. You're doing all this stuff on national TV. Every time I turn on the TV, I see you. Why don't you do something for Ohio State? And I was like, yeah, yeah, of course, for sure. And that's literally what kicked it off. So, and then it just, you know, kind of blew up from there.
Oh, that's amazing. And Tyler also wanted to ask, what was your favorite moment of the playoff run and why?
Wow. So I think that my favorite. So here's the thing. I'm gonna give you a little bit of background. So my family and I, we traveled to Nigeria over Christmas break, and we had that trip booked since July. Okay, and so the first game against Tennessee, our flight was leaving to Europe literally at the time that the game started. So we were able to watch. Thank God we were able to watch the first half of it on the flight before the internet had gone out, before we're like over the ocean. So I had able to see the first half of the Tennessee game. I was still nervous when we landed because we had no service until we landed. But so that was kind of unusual because normally I would have been there, you know. And then when we were coming back, we were scheduled to come back the exact same time the Oregon game. So we're
Oh,
literally watching the Oregon game on the plane on the way back. It was crazy. It was just total coincidence. But I was fortunate enough to go to the Texas game and go to the national championship game and take my son to that game. And so, you know, my favorite moment was Jack Sawyer's strip sack scoop score for a couple of reasons. First of all, in the, that game, that Texas game, although I thought we were going to win, that was the game that made me the most nervous. I wasn't nervous against Tennessee. I wasn't nervous against Oregon. But that game made me the most nervous for a couple of reasons. One, just the fact that it was in the Cotton Bowl. It was literally in their, pretty much their backyard. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge advantage in that situation. But also after we beat Oregon that way, I was nervous that maybe we would, start feeling ourselves a little bit and maybe think, this was a little easier than we thought and maybe not, give it our all. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, nah, this team is locked in, so. But then during the game, their Texas fans were talking mad trash to me at the game. They're in my stuff. It was funny. It was all fun. But that play, at that point in time, the game was tight, right? And better than I thought it should have been. So that play was just amazing. That stadium erupted. Oh my God. Like I literally had like tears in my eyes. It was just like a beautiful moment. And then the last thing I'll say about that moment in particular too was that, and I said this in the documentary as well, I was frustrated that Jack Sawyer didn't get kind of his hero moment in the Team Up North game, because when he made that interception, I think we all thought, oh my God, Jack's about to be a hero. That was the play that was going to make win, and then we didn't win. So I was happy that he was able to get his hero moment again. So that was definitely my favorite play.
That's amazing. Another question from Aaron. What is your favorite national title team between 2002, 2014, and 2024?
Oh, God.
Oh, God. It's freaking kids, isn't it? Isn't it? Is that like picking your favorite kid?
This is crazy. So, all right. So 2002. So I graduated a year early and I didn't play the whole time. I graduated from college in 3 years and I only played for like the first year and a half. But that 2002 team, Mike Doss, Craig Kenzel, Matt Wilhelm, that was my class. Those are the guys I came in with. So I was freshman camp, August 4th. And so those are my boys. So seeing them win, that was just like crazy, and I was so proud of them. And then obviously beating Miami and taking down that team, right? In those circumstances, I think we were 13, 14-point underdogs. Nobody expected us to win. That was amazing. 2014 was amazing. I was able to go to the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, and I was able to go to the national championship game, which was sweet. The Alabama game was probably one of my favorite games ever, just because I just so happy that we just beat them, in that situation. And, what everybody was saying about the SEC at that time, and Ohio State is slow and all that type of nonsense. So that game was, and then being down 21-6, and coming back and winning that game, that was special. But then the national championship game was a little anticlimactic. You know what I mean? Like we knew, Marcus Mariota was there, so it's, it's not an opponent you take lightly, but it really felt like the national championship game was truly that Alabama game. Sure. And then this run was so special too, because obviously losing the Team Up North and then having the road that we had. That's probably going to be the toughest road anybody ever plays, ever. Moving forward, and even as they change the format, the games, it's unlikely you're going to have those four type of opponents. So all of those have their special qualities. But for me, and I'm sorry to give you this long answer,
no,
but for me, I think it's the 2002 one, because just first of all, we were undefeated, right? And then the stakes, we weren't expected to do what we did, and we took down a dynasty that hasn't really even recovered, to be honest, since then. So that one is probably the most special.
See, I always say that one because I lived through the Cooper years. I'm 46.
Yeah.
So, that was the team that finally broke through the ceiling, that finally broke through the wall. They beat Michigan. They won the Big Ten, and they finally, they accomplished the ultimate goal finally.
100%. And I played for Coach Cooper too. So that was a rough time. And so to see us rally together, and Doss, who came back specifically for that. And again, he was my teammate. So to see him do that, that was just really special.
What was it like to go against Doss in practice?
Listen, man, Mike Doss was freshman year. He was scary. From freshman year. I'm talking about the first day we stepped on field. Mike Doss was a scary dude, And excuse me, I believe his name was Derek Warnke, and you guys might not remember him. He was a wide receiver. Went across the middle against Doss, and Doss lit him up in practice, man. It was bad. It was a scary situation. but that's how he played. He practiced how he played. He was, reckless abandon, just unbelievable hitter, unbelievable spatial recognition and instincts. I mean, he was just born to play football, So, in practice, I'm not I'm not trying to go across the middle. Dawson's, where Doss is every time. If you're running a slant or you're running a deep post or something like that, and Mike is over there, you know where he is. So I tried to avoid him as much as I could.
You're like, I'll just run the go route, coach. I'll just run the go route.
Yeah, and the thing about Mike is he took no prisoners. He didn't care if you were his boy. He didn't care if you were, someone he liked or his friend. It wasn't like that. He played hard all the time. It didn't matter who you were, and that's why he became the player, that he had always been. Really, I mean, he had been like that since high school and probably even grade school. And so it was so awesome to kind of just see him fulfill his destiny as a national champion and All-American and go to the NFL and do it again, so kudos to Mike.
I mean, captain. I mean, he could have won early, and he said he was coming back to win a national championship, and everybody kind of laughed at him because that team. I mean, no one expected that team to win a championship that year.
Think about it. You had Craig Krenzel, who that's my guy, and I'm not saying anything negative about Craig, but Craig wasn't like CJ Stroud, right? And he was just a very good, smart quarterback. Then you had a freshman running back. You had Chris Gamble, who was a freak, obviously, but he's a two-way player. I mean, you had a lot of things going on that team that didn't necessarily say, okay, this is a championship team.
Yeah.
When you look back, it's funny, and trust me, I've been looking back a lot because my son watches that. He's 7, and he watches that championship game probably once a week. He is obsessed with the 2002 national championship game. So I got to go back and actually, relive a lot of those moments and also just watch the team. And I'm like, oh, we had a bunch of studs on that team. Guys like Will Smith, God rest his soul, that was my guy. Mike Jenkins, I mean, these are first round players, you know what I mean? Chris Gamble, like, we had a lot of guys on that team, even C. Grant, Matt Wilhelm, just understated guys. And so, the reason why Miami got so much hype, as they should, is because, I mean, that team was ridiculously loaded. Yeah. When you look at their roster from 2002, even 2001, you're like, oh my God, like when you see what they went and did in the NFL. If you go look back at our team, we had some real talent on that team too. So I think we may have underestimated that at the time. And they also had a chip on their shoulder, and that's the best way to play sports in my mind.
That's yeah.
We've had Tim Anderson on, and Tim's a good friend of mine, and I mean that team was so underestimated, and I mean Miami was already they already had a freaking party plan, a back-to-back party, and they let the Flyers out early. Those guys had the Flyers in the locker room, and I mean they were so jacked, and they played great as a team. I mean that was a total team win.
Here's another thing I don't really hear a lot of people talk about, but my freshman year, the very first game that we played was the Kickoff Classic versus Miami at New York Giants Stadium, and they smacked us. Santana Moss went for like 200 that game. I mean, it was crazy. They smacked. It was like 41-10 or something like that. I mean, they crushed us.
James talked about that. Talked about that.
Yeah. Okay. You know what's super funny is that, like, I think that's why Miami believe they could beat y'all again, because off that one game. I think that's why.
And not even just that, but I think for our guys, it was more of like, that was a very sore spot. We're all competitors. Nobody wants to get embarrassed like that the very first game of the season and nationals. And so for Mike Doss and Krenzel and Drew Carter and Wilhelm, that was our first experience into college football. So that's had to stick with those guys too, and to get a chance to play them again their senior year in the national championship game, and they're a big underdog again. I mean, man, we had all the juice.
Yeah, James talked about that. He goes, a lot of those guys were freshmen, and some were, redshirt freshmen. They wanted that chance at them again. They had a payback, and he was happy that they got that payback.
100%.
Yeah. Vader asks, who's your favorite player?
Wow. It's funny. My son actually asked me this question like 2 days ago. And I swear I tell people, if you ask me 365 days that question, I'll probably give you 365 different answers. I love so many guys, but for me, it's Eddie, because I think it's almost like So a couple things. One, at the age that I was when he was playing, it's almost like watching your superhero, right?
Yeah.
And so those things kind of stick with you. Obviously, Zeke. I love Zeke, and I love a lot of other guys. Archie was before my time. I didn't see him, so I love all those guys. But at that age, that's when you kind of lock in a lot of times to like these guys being really super. You're not just a fan. You're like watching someone that you're like in awe of, and then getting to meet him, and then obviously becoming friends with him, over the years has been exceptional, and just learning what type of person he is. And I remember one story about him too, real quick. My freshman year, I remember this was like maybe the first week or two in camp, and I walked into the weight room, and Coach Kennedy was our strength and conditioning coach at that time. And Coach Kennedy had an office in the weight room, and there was a big window like that he could see out into the weight room from his office. And I walked in, and I looked to the left, and I saw something that looked like the Hulk standing the other way, though. I couldn't see his face. His back was to me. And I was like, that is the biggest dude I've ever seen. Who the heck is that? He had his shirt off, and it was just muscles everywhere. His muscles had muscles. I was like, who is this guy? And he turned around, and it was Eddie George. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. That was like literally like my first week there. And so, and then, and then he was cool. He came out and talked to us, and he was cool. It's just, so I was like, wow. And so that gave me a lot of insight just to what it meant to really, really be a Buckeye, and what that experience was going to be like. And the next couple of weeks, then Joey Galloway was there, and Ty Howard, and it was just like, I was just like, gosh, this is so crazy. This is literally what I grew up watching and idolizing, and literally now I'm in the same place as these guys. So that was just just a funny Eddie story, but something that just always stuck with me.
One question I want to ask: a lot of these younger viewers won't remember this guy, but what was it like watching Joey Galloway run? I mean, my gosh, that guy could fly.
So the thing about Joey that was amazing was that he wasn't just fast, but he was quick as a cat, right? So you had guys that were fast, but they weren't necessarily as quick, right? And then you had guys that were quick, but not necessarily as fast, right? Like Bam Childress, for example.
Sure.
Yeah, Bam Childress.
Mr. Football.
Yeah, he was so quick. I mean, he was like, I don't know how fast he was in the 40, but he was super quick. But Joey was both. So I remember a time in the locker room. No, actually, this was in the weight room too. There were like 3 or 4 dudes, including Coach L, who was our assistant strength and conditioning coach, that were literally in the weight room trying to touch Joey. The game was, they were like playing tag. They were literally just trying, could they even get a finger on him? They couldn't touch him. And it was 4 of them. Wow. And he was just like, I mean, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's hard to even explain. And they were really trying. They couldn't touch him. So when I saw that, I was like, and then I saw him run. I saw Ty Howard run. Ty Howard ran like a 4.3, back then too. I was like, this is elite. I mean, these guys are, elite athletes. So yeah, Joey could fly, man. That was fun watching him. Even in high school, and then college, and then even in the NFL, he was still probably the fastest dude in the NFL. So yeah, we put him out. Buckeyes put him out, man.
Yeah. Another one. Tyler asks, "What was the biggest hit you've seen in practice and in game?"
The biggest hit I probably saw was that hit that Mike Doss put on Derek Warnke that I mentioned earlier. I mean, it was literally like the classic, slant, or probably a slant, deep post. Derek's coming right across the middle. It was literally like the what you would see in a movie, right? Mm-hmm. And Derek's coming across, and it felt like it was in slow motion. And the ball's in the air, and Derek is going up, and everybody's like, because Mike is coming. Mm-hmm. And Mike is coming full, Mikey, when he puts his head down, he gets going, and he's coming full speed. And right when Derek gets his hand on the ball, boom! And it was just like, everybody knew right away, like, oh no, this could be bad. Mm-hmm. And Derek was down for a while. I don't remember if the ambulance got called, but it was a very serious situation. It wasn't just like, oh, he was hurt for a little bit, got the wind knocked out and got up. It was a serious situation. So I don't like to, I don't want to brag on the situation for Mike necessarily, because he may not even be happy about it. But that was definitely, that was a big one. That was scary.
I think Mike gets overlooked a lot, nowadays, about how great he really was. I mean, the people that saw him, we all know how great he was, but some of these younger guys might not know how great Mike actually was.
Definitely,
It's
definitely.
kind of a shame.
It is. And I think, the people who know, like you said.
Mhm.
But if you don't know, and there's some guys that just, they just stand out for different reasons. It could be, personality. It could be what they did in the NFL. It could be that helps them that build the mystique. It could be, I don't know. But I think for Mike, he's just one of the most. I agree with you. He's like criminally underrated. But I will tell you this though. A lot of times, like I'll do every once in a while, throughout the year, I'll like throw out to social media. I'll say, "Hey, who's your favorite Buckeye of all time?" It's the same type of thing that you asked me. And there are a lot of people that say Mike Doss. So he might not be as underrated as we think, but yeah, he has a very, very large fan base and people who really appreciate what he did.
Did you ever kick yourself for not playing longer, or what? Did you?
Yeah, that I do wonder that.
It's interesting. So my story is very interesting. Even how I got to play football was, I mean, a miracle, right? So I was a soccer player pretty much my whole life, from 4 all the way through high school. Won the state championship in high school my junior year, and then I started growing really fast. I had this growth disorder called Osgood-Schlatter in my knee, so I was growing fast, and I could still run and cut, but I couldn't kick or shoot without inflammation. So I had to make a decision going into my senior year, like I wasn't going to be able to play. And my gym teacher, or PE teacher, who was Coach Bob Jacoby, legend high school coach. He was also, the head football coach, and he had always been trying to get me to play football since the day I had touched like my freshman year. And so finally he got to me and he was like, "Hey," he was like, "Mekka, just come out, just come play." And they had won the states that year too in football. So we had won the states in boys soccer, girls soccer, football my junior year, and then we had 8 guys go division to the states in wrestling. So we were like dominating in all sports. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll come out and play, and that's literally how it happened. My senior year, I ended up playing, and we won. We ended up winning the states that year as well. And what was amazing about that, what was lucky for me, was that we had a lot of guys on that team go D1. Our whole offensive line went D1, and our quarterback went D1. And that's very unusual, right? And so because we had so much talent on our team, we would and we had the extra games because of the playoffs. We would have scouts that would come to our games and to watch those guys, not to watch me. And then eventually they'd be like, "Oh, who's that fast wide receiver out there?" Because I was fast, right? Obviously. And so that's kind of how I even started to get on anyone's radar at all. And so I had some small school, I had some Ivy League offers, some smaller school offers. And then my uncle had sent my tape in to Ohio State, and Coach Conley, who was a recruiting coordinator, and he got back to us and said, "Hey, yeah, we would love for him to come be a preferred walk-on." And that was amazing for me because I already had a full ride academic scholarship to Ohio State. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, so I can go there and play, and I already have an academic scholarship, so I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay for it." And that's how it worked out. So for me, obviously I loved football, but it wasn't like my first love. It wasn't like I grew up dying to be a Buckeye football player. It just landed, in my lap in some ways, right? And so when I got there, I didn't think I don't think I had dreams of playing in the NFL. I was still learning the game. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even know certain things that people knew. I was just very athletic and smart and stuff like that. But I still didn't know coverages. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that people had known for a while. So I had never really had NFL aspirations. I didn't think it was realistic. I was very honest with myself. I went to school with Gary Berry, who was in high school. I mean, and so he and I had talked by the time, and Gary was a senior when I got to Ohio State. So he and I had talked before I even got there, and he helped me kind of set realistic expectations of what it meant to come and be a walk-on at Ohio State. He was like, "Look, it's going to be tough. It's going to be the toughest thing you ever do." And and I realized early my job was really just to contribute to making the starters better, and that's really what my job was. And I was fine with that. And I think at times in life, a lot of people aren't willing to play that role, but that role is important. You want to get to be the boss, you gotta, you gotta pay your dues. And so, so anyway, so no, I don't kick myself. I think I got everything that I probably needed to get out of that, and still healthy, thank God. And then I've created those relationships that have now been, we're talking about decades later. I'm still in business with the university, and I'm probably closer to the program than I've ever been. and more influential in the program than I even was when I was playing. So I think it all worked out well.
Still a cool experience that you at least got to go on and do that though. I mean, that's just awesome. I mean, a lot of people don't even get the chance to do that. So I mean, that's really an awesome experience.
Yeah, I was blessed to do it. And people ask me all the time, like, what's more of a rush, running out, on the field with the Buckeyes, or performing in front of 20,000 people or whatever. And honestly, to this day, I don't think there's anything that tops. Well, maybe Fox Big Noon Kickoff. That was a rush. But outside of that, running out in that stadium with 100,000 fans screaming, I mean, geez, I remember those moments like they were yesterday. I still get chills in my body thinking about that sometimes. And me and Andre Griffin, Archie's son,
Mm-hmm.
we would always be some of the first guys running out. That was kind of our moment, right?
Yeah,
And
so
so
you can get on TV. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember those. I remember those days, and um, yeah, it was just a special time. So and I knew at the time too that this was a brotherhood that I was becoming a part of, a fraternity. I didn't know it would turn out how it is now, but it was something that I knew at the time, and I really soaked it up.
That's amazing. Hey, I'm just gonna ask: have either of you seen Jeremiah Smith's comments about the rivalry?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a question that Michael Cowell was asking. What do we think? Mainly you, uh, Mac. Which is, what do you guys think of his comments about the rivalry? He loved it for sure. I know for a fact I did. I said, "Thank you,
Yeah,
Jeremiah Smith."
I tweeted about this not too long ago, and literally
Oh,
was talking about how much I loved it because one of the things that when you first of all, before you even get to Ohio State, if you grew up in Ohio, you're born into that rivalry. You
Mm-hmm.
already understand what it means. And one of the things that I think criticisms that some people have is that when guys aren't from Ohio, and then they weren't necessarily born into the rivalry, we don't know how much they appreciate it, understand it, care about it. And it's hard. If Jeremiah grew up in Florida, there are other rivalries I'm sure he knew about and cared about.
Mm-hmm.
So
mhm.
for him to feel this way after his freshman year, he's only been here one season. It seems like it's been forever, but he's only been here one season. For him to feel this way, and then not only feel this way, but feel that way enough to express it out loud. I mean, that means that he's bought into what this thing is all about. And at the end of the day, that hate for that team up north it's important, to have for the rivalry. I mean, I hate to say it, and maybe it's not good to teach your kids that, but that's it is what it is.
Yep.
We don't like them and they don't like us. And so I think that's leadership as well, right? Teaching the young guys who are coming in what this thing is about. There are guys that we get from all over the country now, so they have to know right away. Urban Meyer was obsessed with making sure people understood what this rivalry was about. Obsessed, like he
Yeah,
obsessed over it. Ryan Day is obsessed over it, not the same way that Urban is. Urban was crazy about it.
true.
Um, but we've lost them 4 times in a row, and if you don't have that level of obsession with it, I mean, it's July and you're a national champion, and that's what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
amazing to me. I love
Yeah,
that.
it
So
is.
I'm super excited about it.
I
Yeah,
mean, that kid's 18 and he's already on another level. I mean, his maturity wise, it's like he's like 20 or 30 years old. I mean, he doesn't go out partying, he
yeah,
doesn't go chasing girls.
yeah,
What he thinks about 24/7 is football
100%.
and business and
And
put the work in.
that's the thing I've been the most impressed with him is that he is a legit superstar, right? He's transcended just Buckeye Nation, and he's transcended even college football. He's a legit superstar, nationally known, and a household name. And the way he carries himself, the way he works, is as if he hasn't done anything yet in life, and that's legitimately how he works. And that's from everything I've seen. Going to practices. I was at spring practice. I was my pro day. I'm talking to coaches. I'm talking, they're telling me this stuff as well. And so it's not just for show. This is who he is. And it's once in a generation that you really see somebody like that. And we've had tons of great players. So this isn't a knock on anybody else, but he's a generational talent. You're not going to see that you know, every few years. That's a guy you're going to see every 10, 15,
20.
20 years. And you just marvel at it and you appreciate it and you soak it up. And the fact that we have him for another 2 seasons is just like the blessing to the Buckeyes. So we better cherish him while he's here.
No
I mean,
doubt.
it's like it's like we just got off Marvin. Now you got Jeremiah Smith. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And you know, it's funny you mentioned Michigan. I'm not gonna lie. Shaun, did you see the comment Eric had? Not Eric. Lee had left about.
No, I didn't.
It was he was talking about that maybe you should do like like you should do a song dogging our the scum up north
Uh,
essentially. Like I would put it on screen, but I don't know if I should.
you know, it's funny. I've had the ideas to do that at different points in time, but it just never felt right. You know, so I just and I don't want to put things out just to put them out, but
I mean, it'd be the
I
funniest diss
figured
track in the world. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I mean, I did a song called "The Edge," and just just a fun song that that I like kind of took some shots at Harbaugh and stuff like that. But it wasn't like a straight up Michigan diss song. But trust me, I have the passion for that. I don't want to do something that doesn't feel right. So, but that's hilarious. I know Buckeye fans would love that for sure.
They would.
Yeah.
Bobby Mack asks, who do you think the captains will be and the block O recipient? Which I think that'd be a good question.
Wow. Captains, I mean, for sure, Caleb Downs. I think Sonny Styles will be a captain. Um,
Carson, maybe Carson
yeah,
Hinsman.
Carson seems like he'll be a captain. Um, I'm not sure who else. We'll have to see how kind of the camp plays out. I think those guys are leading the field for that right now.
Block O recipient. Who do you think that'd be?
Mm.
I think Sonny should get
And
it. That's
Sonny,
my.
right? Sonny seems like the right candidate for it. So,
Mm.
so yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm so excited so I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit, and about kind of my expectations for this season. I know we're probably gonna get to that at some point, but
Sure.
so I went to spring practice a few times this year, and did my own observations by myself, and then I also sat and talked with coaches and stuff like that at different points in time. And the thing that I wanted to see the most was, did we have juice in practice? Were guys acting like they were national champions, or were guys out there, acting like they had to fight all over again, right? And the thing that surprised me, but also made me very happy at the same time, was we had juice. Guys were out there fighting as if they had never won anything in their lives, and that was so exciting to me, because that's what it takes to win, man. People don't realize, and that's one of the things that makes Nick Saban made him such a master, and made Urban Meyer such a master, was being able to win that consistently, and every year have your guys feel almost insecure about who they are and what they've done, and keep them hungry, right? And keep them going into the next season, forgetting about the last season, and understanding that, all of their goals theoretically are still ahead of them. That is a hard thing to do as a coach, And so that's one of the things I've been really impressed with Coach Day, is being able to keep these guys locked in. And I talked to Sonny over at one of those. Actually, I talked to my pro day, I believe, and I asked him kind of his opinion on how he thought the team was responding, and everything like that too. And he said the same thing. He was like, boys are out there playing, guys are out there hitting, guys are out there fighting for their lives. So I think we have a great mix of veterans. Obviously, we lost a lot of guys, right? But we still have some good veterans on that team in key positions. And we have a mix of that. We have a mix of guys who are on the cusp of being stars, but didn't really get the opportunity, but have been chomping at the bit, like Brandon Ennis. We have, guys like Julian Sang, who have the talent, who just haven't gotten much opportunity yet, but we know that they have the talent, right? 5-star guy, recruited by Alabama. And then we have the young guys, like Mylan Graham. Just remember that name. That dude,
Yeah.
and then he's going to be a star. I can't wait for him. So we have guys waiting in the wings. So I think we have a good mix of veteran leadership, like I said, guys that have been on the team that just haven't gotten their opportunity yet, but are good enough. But you're sitting behind, NFL players.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then young guys who are ready to kind of take it to the next level. And then we have obviously highest quality coaching that there is. So I'm super excited for the team. I think Julian will probably end up being the quarterback, but I do think Lincoln is going to push him. I don't think it's just as okay. This is Julian's team. I think there is a world where Julian goes to camp, and I don't think he'll do this, but there's a world where Julian goes to camp and is not really showing what we expect, and Lincoln ends up being the guy. And I think that Coach Day will make that decision if that's the right decision. But I do think Julian will end up being the guy. I think he's extremely talented. I think our offensive line is going to be exceptional.
Nasty.
Yeah, and obviously we have the talent on the outside, so it's going to be hard for him to not look the part, and he has the talent. So, oh man, I'm juiced up talking about the season right now.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, it's kind of funny because Tyler actually asked, "Do you think he will be a captain, or can he be?" And I'll even add to that: Do you think Ennis can be one as well?
Wow, Ennis has, I think, probably more of a chance of being a captain. Julian could be. I mean, that's but it's probably unlikely. It's probably unlikely, and not because I don't think he has the qualities. He'll probably be a captain next year, right? But I think this year, but Brandon Ennis definitely is. He's a vocal leader. He's a guy that's everybody on the team loves and respects. Even before this season, as the third, fourth wide receiver, guys love him. So I think he's a guy that has a real shot at that. And he's a dog. Yeah, somebody said he's a dog. Yeah,
dog in him. Yep.
And so he's a type of guy that really can inspire the team. So I think he has a good shot. Julian, we'll see. He's more of an understated guy, and he still has a little bit to prove in camp, and not a ton, but he has a little bit to prove. So we'll see how it plays out.
You said you were at those practices. Were you there when they were going live and they let the quarterbacks go live? Were you there during that?
I was, man, and it was.
Julian guy's helmet popped off by took his helmet. Oh man.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And you know what? These practices reminded me a little bit of the practices from last year, because I went to the practices last year too, in spring, and it was action, man. It was I knew last year in spring. And I went to obviously the fall camp practices and stuff like that too. But I'm talking about before that. I knew, I was like, oh, this team is serious. These guys are getting after it, And Brian had Coach Day, it kind of created that environment, and I saw the same thing this year. Helmets flying off, guys getting in fights. When we used to get in fights, so I'll tell you some story. When we used to get in fights, offense versus defense in practice, right? It was. Coaches didn't want anyone to get hurt, but coaches actually liked it, right? At the same time, because it was like it showed that people cared, and that there was energy and juice, and I was actually there when LaCharles and Tyson got in that big fight. I don't know if you remember that. What's his? I can't remember. Why can't I remember his last name? But he was another offensive lineman. Him and I think the guy ended up suing LaCharles. So. If you want to look that up, you'll probably see it from that fight in practice. So I was there that day, and I just remember the energy. How much coaches were like, acting like they didn't. Oh, you guys got to, but they really liked it, And so that's part of what you want to see. I mean, it sounds weird, probably the non-football people. Like, why would you want your people fighting in practice? But it shows that guys care, and guys are getting after it, and guys are ready to compete. And if you're physically battling somebody over and over again, like they're bound to be some fights. I mean, come on, that's what the sport is. The sport is a contact sport. It's engaging, pushing, shoving, blocking, hitting. I mean, that's what it is. So anyway, so I got to see a lot of that this year and this off season, and I'm so excited for camp.
Who do you think? All right, since you saw so much in camp, give us a player on offense and a player on defense who you think is going to be just going to shock the world, going to shock everybody that people might not be looking at. Because I said Mylan Graham. I mean, Mylan Graham's really big. I'm really big on Mylan.
Yeah.
I
think Mylan Graham. I have to go with him as well. I am a huge Mylan Graham fan, and we have other dudes that I'm excited about too. Quincy, I'm excited about other guys, but Mylan just is like. I just think he's super. He's like Garrett Wilson all over again, right? And then on defense, wow, I'm going to give you two guys.
Okay.
I think Jordan Matthews is gonna shock a lot of people. I think he's going to be really, really good on the outside. But Devin Sanchez, I know he's a freshman, But Devin Sanchez is like the Jeremiah Smith of defense.
That's what everybody's saying. Everybody's saying that
Everybody keeps
too.
saying that.
Everybody
Legit.
keeps saying that too. I mean, it's
And I'm telling you this from a couple of different perspectives. One, from what I've, obviously heard about him and saw him from high school and stuff like that, whatever. From what I've seen in camp and talking to other people, but also talking to coaches. And coaches don't always reveal. They're a little more conservative a lot of times, especially when it comes to freshmen. If you even listen to like Ryan Day talking about Jeremiah Smith last year around this time, like he would say some good things, but he would never go all the way. It wasn't until later he was just like, you know what, F it, he's the best. But and so they're always hesitant with doing that. But these coaches haven't been holding back when it comes to Devin, and I'm not trying to, bust their butt, tell their secrets here, but.
Yeah.
Devin is going to play. He's going to play a lot, and he's going to shock the world. I can't wait. I can't wait to see him line up.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, I was actually going to ask about Devin Sanchez, and you basically answered my question already.
Yeah.
But I guess I
Devin,
can say, who else? What other freshmen do you think on this team impress you other than Devin Sanchez?
I think there was Milan, I guess. I think that I wasn't so locked in on them as much, right? And for freshmen,
okay.
I think on some levels you don't want to put that kind of pressure on them, right? Because they still should have time and room to develop. And a lot of times when a freshman stands out, it's going to be somebody like that who's consistent, right? A lot of freshmen will have great plays throughout the spring, but then they'll have plays that you're like, okay, it reminds you that they're a freshman,
Yeah.
Devin wasn't like that, and Jeremiah wasn't like that. They look like vets right away. So there's nobody else. But one thing I will say is that I think we're also really deep at a lot of positions. Wide receiver, obviously, we're very deep. I think we have a very nice defensive back room. There's some guys that Bryce and West and Aaron Scott, and the guys that we haven't seen play yet that I think will start getting some playing time this year and impress. And those guys have been waiting patiently, and hoping to get their opportunity. So I think we'll hear some names, and there'll probably be some surprise names. I can't wait for camp to roll around again so I can go really do my scouting. I think I was more scouting for energy in the spring than anything else. But in camp, I'm going to go look and really, I'll have a better answer for you.
Yeah, that is the reason I asked that, is because I keep hearing a lot of talk about Quincy Porter. So I was wondering if you ever seen him.
Quincy's a stud, man. I love Quincy. I mentioned him a couple minutes ago, and I think he could be big time. We'll just see how he fits into the rotation ultimately, because he's you're just fighting for minutes
Playing
at that
time.
point. Yeah. But he's a stud, and he's a guy that 2-3 years from now we'll definitely be talking about him for real. And somebody mentioned Hicks, and the Riley Pettijohn, freshman, also a stud. CJ Hicks not a freshman, but he's someone that we hope can break out this year. If CJ Hicks has a big year this year, we probably win the national title. Like it's because we have so much talent at every other position. Those are only kind of question marks you can ask. And
What do you think of TJ Alford?
TJ Alford is nice too. Yeah, TJ Alford is nice too. I mean, yeah, it's too early to see. That's why I can't wait for camp, because it's too early to tell on some of these guys how much they'll actually contribute and be in the rotations this year.
I don't think they'll be in the rotation a lot because of how much depth we have, but I do think it's fair to see what people, what do you see, what type of potential could you see about year 2? What do you think you could see out of them?
Yeah, and the craziest thing, I mean, I know this might sound cliche, but I mean, pretty much everybody who's coming in has potential to be a star, and that's the thing that's been so amazing with the recruiting that we've done. Like, they're not guys that you're looking at I don't think he's going to make it. It really just comes down to, how much they stick with it. And so this is something that I've talked to a couple of coaches about too. And I remember that first year, if you're a freshman, and even if you're playing a little bit, or you're on special teams, or if you're redshirting, it's tough, man. It is tough. It is a huge adjustment. I'll tell you guys another story real quick to explain illustrate what I'm saying. So my freshman year, in the weight room, Coach Kennedy was our strength and conditioning coach. I mentioned that already. And we had 3 rules in the weight room. 3 things we weren't allowed to do. 1, we weren't allowed to chew gum. If you chewed gum, you get in trouble. 2, you weren't allowed to yawn in the weight room. You yawned, you got in trouble. And 3, you were not allowed to talk about high school. You couldn't say anything about high school. He was like, you guys were all good in high school. Everybody was all American, all state, all this and that. I don't care about it. I don't want to hear about it. If I hear about it, you're going to run the stairs. And that was, and what it made you realize really quickly was like, wow, this is that's cool what we just did here, but this is different. And for most guys, they go from being, superstar. They've been superstar their whole life. Since 7 years old, they were the best on their Pee Wee team all the way through high school. They were the best, and they were all this and all that. And then you get to Ohio State, and you're not just another guy, but now you're just starting all over again. And so that's rough for a lot of guys, and not everybody deals with it the same way. And then now you have the transfer portal and stuff like that too. So it's really hard to say who are the guys that are going to, this early, who are the guys that are going to stick it out? Who are the guys that are going to, grind? How are they going to, how healthy are they going to be? What's their mindset going to be? All that type of stuff. It's hard to say a lot of times early with young guys and freshmen. So that's why I try not to, judge them too harshly or anoint them too much at this point, because it's just you just really don't know. And so by year 2 is when, and maybe year 3 for sure, is when you can really start to tell what a guy's going to be. So yeah, all these guys have talent and they all have the potential, but we'll see how we'll see how they develop.
That's a great point, because those kids are used to having everything catered to them ever since they were a kid. They were the best, and now you're going up against every town's best or every school's best, and they're your teammates. So I mean,
yeah,
and you step your game up, man.
On that real quick too, I remember you had Gary Conley on here, right? And I'm not sure if you guys asked him this question, but Gary and I are very close, and I remember, yeah, he's a great kid. He's always been, right, and we've been close since he was at Ohio State. And I remember somebody had asked him in an interview who was the toughest wide receiver that he ever guarded, and this is and he said, "You mean ever, like including college, or just like in the NFL?" They're like, "Ever, including everyone." And he said, "Mike Thomas."
I think we did ask him that. Yeah, I think we asked him that. He definitely
was like, even over the guys in the NFL, my hardest assignments were in practice at Ohio State against Mike Thomas. Yep. And there are a lot of guys that are going to be able to tell that story. I mean, imagine what these guys are going to be saying about Jeremiah and Marvin Harrison and Emeka and Olave and Garrett. Like a lot of these, I mean, these are all pro caliber guys that these guys are going against every single day in practice, So the mindset becomes very, very important, right? It's are you ready and willing to compete on that level consistently day in and day out? And some days you're going to get your butt kicked, right? Yep. Some days it doesn't mean you're not good, but imagine, Denzel Burke, what he's been gone through in practice the last 4 or 5 years. Look at the guys he's had to go against in practice, So that's the thing about Ohio State, man, and that's why it's so hard to, say early, what people are going to be. But it is, but if you stick with it and you have that dog in you, you're going to get opportunities to go against the best. And if you can shine against those guys, you can shine against anybody.
Like they say, we go against NFL caliber people all week in practice. The games were easy for them guys.
That's it. Guys aren't. There's no way, no DB at Ohio State is going against tougher guys in the Big Ten than they're going against every week in practice.
Or even in college football in general. The only colleges I think that could give Ohio State a challenge was Bama and LSU, because they are known for having elite wide receivers too.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Tyler did want to ask about your thoughts on Atkinson, the kid we got from North Carolina.
Oh, I mean, he looks the part, and he obviously was productive at North Carolina. Has great energy. He's a football player. And, there's just some guys that they're just football players. And if you know football, you kind of know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to do a great job. So I look forward to seeing a little bit more of him. To be honest, I haven't seen a ton of him. I've seen some film from him at North Carolina and a little bit more, but not a ton. So I'll kind of reserve my overall predictions for him for camp, but I think he's going to come in and cause havoc. And I actually think our tight end too, Max Clare.
Max Clare.
Oh my gosh, that is like the biggest secret in college football. I don't know why, but that dude is going to dominate this year. We have the best tight end room probably in the country.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
him, Jelani Thurman.
yeah, and it's going to be.
They're going to be the scariest duo of tight ends. Think about it. We still got Will Kazmarek and Bennett Christian, who are really good tight ends. You got Max LeBlanc, and then you got the Nate Roberts and Brody Lennon, them two freshmen who, when I've been listening to what Ohio State coaches have said about them, it's not like we got some stars in that tight end room. It's like a complete 180.
we got dudes, man. And so I'm excited when we talk about, and I think moving forward, when you talk about kind of our pass catchers, I guess let me rewind. You shouldn't just talk about our wide receivers. You should talk about our pass catchers when you're talking about Ohio State's passing attack this year. And Max has got to be included in that. He's up there in the discussion. So
yeah, I think the biggest reason we only talk about the wide receivers is because of how much Ohio State has thrown the ball to the tight ends, which wasn't a lot. But when they do throw the ball to the tight ends, it's in big time moments. Yeah. And they're Ryan Day's championship year. What are your expectations for this year?
So it's wow. I mean, I think so. I try to take my kind of Ohio State goggles off, and say, all right, losing 15 guys to the draft and a couple other guys, G. Scott and a couple other guys that were the draft caliber guys.
Sure.
Knowing that you're replacing all of those guys, losing, guys like Chip Kelly, losing our defensive coordinator. If I was taking a step back and I was just an objective fan, and I would say, all right, this is going to be a 2-3 loss season for Ohio State, right? That's what I would say. But being close to it, the program, and knowing yeah, we lost Will Howard, but we got Julian Sane. Yeah, we lost the Mekka, but we got, Brandon Ennis right behind him, and
And Brandon Ennis is called, him and Bryson Rogers are both seen as the best route runners on Ohio State's team. And I'm like, with all the wide receivers you got, and you're the best route runners, I mean, man.
Right. And so, seeing that kind of kind of just that attrition and turnover, you would think, okay, this probably won't be our year. But I think that, there's some coaches and some programs that it doesn't really matter what year it is. They're always going to be competitive. They're always going to compete. And part of that is because they have the proper coaching, but also proper development and obviously the talent, right? So I think that my expectations are that we make the playoffs, obviously, which I guess isn't a big deal anymore now that it's 12 teams.
I mean, it still means more because it's like you have no excuses for missing a 12-team playoff.
100%. And, we have some tough games. I mean, we have Texas. That team up north game, it maybe shouldn't be as tough as it is, but it's a tough game.
Do we play a mental block? Block.
We play Penn State this year?
Yep.
Yeah, we play.
But we're playing them in November, so we might actually be able to get them while we're hitting our stride by November. And if we were getting them early in the season, there's a good chance we would have lost.
Yeah, and some people think Penn State is going to be the best team in college football this year, right? We don't think that as Buckeye fans, and we always think it's funny because we always can beat Penn State. But outside, people who don't have as much knowledge about that game, Ohio State, Penn State history as we do, they look at Penn State and they say, look, they pretty much have the same story that we had last year.
And scum 2023. But then you also have to pay attention because I've always broken this down. When you look at what Ohio State and even scum did in 23, excluding their little scandal, if you look at what they did in recruiting and in the portal, both these teams, it made a huge difference because of look at what they were able to do as far as plugging in the holes that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we brought in some of the best players in the transporter, which no one else can really say. Mm-hmm. And Scum got really good, contributing players to help them out as well. So it's like when I look at Penn State, you did good with the receiver room, but here's my thing: how good is your receiver room really? I still want to see that with my own eyes because I'm not sure.
Probably going to be their biggest weakness, but their defense is going to be legit. Offensive line is going to be legit. Quarterback, I'm not as sold on him as some other people are, but if you listen to all the NFL scouts, they think he's going to be They think he's going to be that
I
guy.
mean,
So,
they
so I,
they they always do that though, because it's like
yeah,
every quarterback they do this way.
true.
Some they're right about, most they're not,
Yeah,
especially as of late.
that's very true. So I think I expect us to be very competitive this year. I expect us to be one of the teams people are talking about in the playoffs that could win the whole thing. And so and unfortunately and fortunately, that is the expectation at Ohio State. We don't believe in down years. We don't believe in we lost guys. Oh my gosh, the NFL. What are we going to do? We don't believe in that.
No.
But I do think that if we don't win it this year, we'll probably win it next year. That I really believe that. So,
Illinois is going to be
Yeah,
tough too. I mean, that's
Illinois,
another team. I mean, the Big Ten's got some real good teams this year. It's
and
better
that's
than
because of how even the playing field practically is. There's no more bagman under the table type BS.
yeah, and how well you can recruit and build a culture.
Hmm.
I think that's going to be the name of the game. Some coaches are running from this opportunity, and some coaches look at it as a great opportunity with the portal, with NIL, and you're basically managing a professional team now. And that's
Yep.
Some coaches are up to that challenge, and I think Ohio State is one of those teams. So I think we're always going to be in the mix, and yeah, I mean, I have high expectations for this team. I'm not looking at this season as like, oh well, if we lose 2 or 3 games, it's fine. No, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So Aaron's, because this is the last question in chat. Aaron asks, "What is your perspective of CJ Donaldson coming around?"
That's a transfer from West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
the
Yeah. The
running
running
back.
back.
I mean, I don't. To be honest, again, I haven't done a ton of like film study on him or anything like that, right? What I've seen and what I've heard, he looks like he could be a real serious contributor. Um, Although I did hear that, and I think we need that, right? Because obviously, I think Peoples is set to be a star. I mean, a lot of people are
Mhm.
comparing him to J.K. Dobbins, right?
Yep,
That
Yeah.
exactly.
comp. Um, but one of the things that we've realized this year, especially this past season and now moving forward in college football, you got to have 2 or 3 running backs in the mix, man. You're talking about 16 potential games. You got the reason why Quinshawn and Travion. I mean, it was like that was like the perfect dream, like for a college football fan, right? You have 2 guys that literally doesn't matter who's on the field, and you feel like either one of them can go the distance or make a crazy
Well,
play.
just take over a game.
Yeah, but imagine if one guy is getting all of those same carries. How first of
Run
all,
down is
just
gonna
risk
be.
of injury, right? But even if you
Injury.
stay healthy, yeah, how worn down will you be by the end of the season? So we're gonna need
Right.
CJ Donaldson to contribute. He's gonna have to come in and be a contributor, and he looks like he can be. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. I think that was a sneaky good pickup.
I'll tell you what, though, I was really surprised because everybody kind of, said he was a big bruising back. At the spring game, he showed a lot of quickness. I know he
Mm-hmm.
lost
Hmm.
20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He didn't lose any muscle. He just lost that fat on him,
He
and
was
he's
looking
just
spry.
trim.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
looking spry. He was looking spry. I was very pleased with that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited, man. And we have a lot of opportunity, and we have some of the most innovative kind of um, coaching staffs and play callers and guys who've been around. So I think we're going to use our guys to the best of their potential. And I'm excited to see the types of offenses that we run, the type of wrinkles that we bring in, and but I think CJ is going to have to contribute for us to be successful ultimately.
Yeah, that's great. Jesus Christ, we are already over the 1 hour mark. I literally look up and I see that. I'm like, Jesus, the time flew by so fast.
I'll tell you, I
Right.
got one more question for you.
Okay.
What was your impression meeting Matt Patricia?
You know
Ooh, that's
what?
a good one.
So I didn't get it. I didn't get it to sit with him a ton. It was kind of more just in passing, but just
Oh, okay.
observing him and talking to other people about him. He's been a fantastic addition. And the thing is if people, I understand the critics who want to judge everything, based on what he did in Detroit and all that type of stuff. But at
He's
the
not
end
a
of the
head coach.
yeah, at the end of the day, what you want is someone who understands the game, and that's you can't ever say that he doesn't understand the game, right? So no matter what you thought about him as a head coach, he understands the game. And the other thing is culturally, personality wise, from what I've been hearing, he's fitting right in there, and guys love him. And he's gonna create havoc. We're gonna see some stuff that, surprise some NFL packages and stuff that we probably haven't seen in the last couple of years. So I think he's going to come in and he's going to have guys flying around, and I think it's going to be fun. That defense is going to be fun this year. So I'm excited to see what he does. But yeah, from all accounts, he's been exceptional, and everybody loves him. And I think that's part of this, man. And I think there's an underrated aspect about culture. We talk about it a little bit, and some people talk about it, but there's an underrated aspect about culture. And one of the last things I'll say, sorry, is one of the things that made me believe in Ryan Day so much, and why I wasn't, even though I was frustrated with him at times and mad at him at times, right? Of course, right? Sure. It was that when you talk to the players, to a player, they love Ryan Day, right? And it's not like they just love him because he's the guy that brings them popcorn every practice. And it's just, no, he pushes them. He yells, he screams, he does that. But they love him because they know that he actually loves them, And so anything that he said, and it's just like parenting, right? It's the same thing. It's like your kids will, if they know that you love them, then it's a totally different thing when they hear you yell at them or whatever. Then they feel disappointed, and they want to actually perform and live up to what the expectations are for them. And so that's the kind of culture that he's created. And what told me that was when everybody came back last year, I was like, oh no, because I know different coaches. I'm not going to name any names, but there have been different coaches where, you're great at recruiting, but you didn't really create a good culture. And when guys got a chance to leave, they're out of there. Ryan was not one of those guys. So I think Ohio, as long as we have him, we're always going to stand a chance. We just got to beat that team up north.
Yeah. So quick 2 questions coming from the chat with Lisa. What was your years at Ohio State? Like, how long were you at Ohio State?
99, 2000, and then graduated in 2002.
Yeah. And now Tyler wants to know your thoughts on Bo Jackson. Quick thoughts on Bo Jackson.
That's a future stud right there. I mean, again, like I said, I try not to anoint freshmen too early because a lot of times, there's a lot of other factors that come in to play, mindset, health, just dealing with, not being the star anymore and having to work your way up the depth chart and stuff like that. But from a talent perspective, I mean, Turbo Bo, I'm excited about him, and he's going to be, if he stays the course, I mean, he has the chance to be special. So, yeah.
All right. So I see that's the end of questions because I
Man,
don't have
we just
any.
want to thank you for we just want to thank you for coming on with us, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for
You're
coming
welcome
on with
to
us
come back
again, man.
anytime.
No problem.
So we appreciate you.
No, thanks for having me. Can I plug 2 things real quick again?
Yeah,
for
go ahead.
New listeners. So I definitely make sure everyone checks out the new documentary, Buckle Up, the Soundtrack of Champions. Again, it chronicles my story and the story of the 2024 Buckeyes championship season. And it's just amazing. Amazing people are in that documentary. Like I said, players, Urban Meyer, Shelly Meyer, Chris Carter. So definitely check that out. It's on my YouTube, youtube.com/Mekka Don Music. And then the other thing I want to plug is my book, my new book, Buckle Up, the Playbook, 5 Winning Plays for Go-Getters. It's a motivational book that I just released a couple of weeks ago. Gene Smith, the legend, athletic director, he's the one that did the forward for the book. So check that out too on Amazon, and on my website you can get autographed copies, shop.mekkadonmusic.com. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on here.
No doubt. Guys, have a good one. All right, take care.
You too. And hey, everybody. Thank you. And everybody, make sure you like, share, subscribe, get this out to friends, family, and everyone you know. Make sure you turn on those notifications and tune into our show next week because we're going to have another special guest. We're not going to say who yet, but it's going to be a very, very special guest, a fun guy who has, I'm going to say a podcaster. I'm going to just leave it there. It's going to be a fun time. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss it. And Shaun, is there anything you want to add?
Please check out Mekka Don's documentary, man. He sent it to me, and I got to check it out. It's awesome. Go get his book. Subscribe to his channel. I mean, let's help this guy get even more likes. I mean, I know he's already famous, but let's Buckeye Nation, let's get him even more, man. Let's pull him over the top, guys. Come on, everybody, check out his stuff. Great dude. He's a Buckeye, man. So we always help out our own here.
Always, and as always, we say it here. OH. Go Buckeyes, and we'll catch you guys next week.